Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'll be reviewing for you
Sonic X Shadow Generations.
Wait, for the Switch 2? Already?
Yes, you heard that correctly, folks. Sega does indeed do what Nintendo don't. They decided that rather than make an upgrade to the existing Switch 1 version, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom did, and make it free for Switch Online expansion pack members, they decided, you know what would be even better? Let's charge full price for another remaster less than a year after the original remaster came out, and we won't even bother making an upgrade path. You'll have to buy it all over again because it's such a revolutionary experience and so much better than a game from less than a year ago. Well, you want to know what they changed for this remaster? The graphics and performance are better. Shocking, right? But yeah, unfortunately, that's it. Those are the changes made to this version. Now, when I first played the Sonic Generations part of it, I was struggling to really see the difference. I mean, the original Xbox 360 version was beautiful. And then when the Switch version came out, I was like, yes, this is technically more pretty, but it still looks quite gorgeous and very, very similar to what I remember. But then as I proceeded through more and more of Sonic Generations, the more and more I started softening up. I was like, okay, I suppose I can see more blades of grass than I could before. Oh, okay, I can actually read that sign now. Okay, it's a bit brighter here. And it wasn't until I got to the stage based on Sonic 06, which I will not spoil just in case you want to discover it for yourself, that's when I said, whoa, this is a very noticeable upgrade. This looks so much brighter and so much more vibrant than it did before. And as I progressed through the rest of the stages from there on, I was like, okay, I admit it. It looks better. And it runs better, too. It now runs at 60 frames, whereas it only ran at 30 on the Switch 1. Admittedly, I didn't notice too much of a difference, because I'm not much of a frame rate stickler, but for those of you that are, that basically means that it's twice as responsive and twice as fast as the original version, which, keep in mind, when you're playing a Sonic game, reflexes and speed are the name of the game, so that is very much a welcome improvement. But now, let's talk about the Shadow Generations side of things. The original version somehow could only go up to 720p, when the Switch 1 was definitely capable of doing 1080. And to put that into less technical terms, for those of you that aren't familiar, basically, Shadow Generations was so advanced in its cinematography and its graphics and its world that it had to be downsized to what the Wii U was capable of. And it only ran at 30 frames per second. Now, in the Switch 2 version, there's two options, which is apparently very standard in most games that are of the power of the Switch 2. And that's that you can choose between image quality or performance. And what that basically means, again, not going to use too many technical terms, is you can choose to make the graphics better, but the performance worse, or you can make the game run at 60 frames, which means that it's very fast and very responsive, with the graphics taking a hit. You can probably guess which one I chose if you look at this footage. Yes, I tried out both of them, and quality mode, where the graphics were better, felt very sluggish and about the same as what I experienced on Switch 1, which by no means was broken, but once I tried performance mode, whew, the 60 frames really made a difference in Shadow Generations. I felt like I was going significantly faster in a game that's already about speed. I felt more responsive, I felt like I could play the stage better because I could react more to the upcoming routes, and even though technically this is the uglier way to play the game, it still looked pretty darn great. Now, don't get me wrong, Shadow Generations doesn't have quite as vibrant of scenery as Sonic Generations, but it makes up for it by having all the spectacular moving parts of the stages. Like, sometimes the stages will transform, and they're usually more involved in terms of like what Shadow's actually doing in the stages. Like, he's jumping around a lot more, and he's transforming, and he's the ultimate life form, so of course he's going to be way more interesting to control than Sonic in that regard. But unfortunately, that about wraps up the list of changes to this version. No new levels, no new content, not even quality of life improvements. Like, you're not going to be able to skip those annoying challenges and bosses. You're going to have to suffer through all that again. Unless you already own it on Switch 1. There is a slight catch, and that's that you can transfer your save data from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2 version. Unfortunately, what you cannot transfer is the DLC. I actually did buy all of the DLC for the Switch 1. I even did a standalone review for the movie DLC, and I thought it was fantastic, even if it was a bit short, and Keanu Reeves' voice acting, while cool to hear conceptually, was kind of terrible in execution. Yeah, I couldn't play any of that on the Switch 2. I would have to re-buy it all over again, which, admittedly, if you only buy the movie DLC, it's only $6, which I think is pretty reasonable considering what you're getting, but why should I have to pay for it again when I already had it, and it was perfectly playable on the Switch 1? And this is what's also unfortunate, is that you take games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that have full-on upgrades, and if you don't have the Switch expansion pack, you only have to pay $10, which $10 is a pretty reasonable price for games this big that are getting such massive performance boosts and some of the terrible Zelda Note stuff, but at the very least you're getting these games to run at modern speeds and frame rates and resolution. And this is actually doing less than those games, but Sega is charging more. So yes, you will have to buy the Switch 2 version again. Now you're probably thinking, were you stupid enough to buy this game twice, Paul? Heck no! I rented this version from Gamefly, and I'm gonna send it right back to the mail again because the Switch 1 version is perfectly playable to me. And that's the route that I think you guys should go. Unless you don't own Sonic X Shadow Generations, the Switch 2 version is absolutely the definitive way to play it, but only barely. If there were certain things about the actual gameplay and level design and voice acting, etc., this isn't going to change your mind. But if you thought, man, the Switch 1 version is ugly as heck and it only runs at 30 frames, then this is the version for you. But be warned that you won't be able to transfer over your DLC and you'll have to rebuy it. But I do think at least get the movie pack. Don't bother getting all the rest of the DLC. That's just ho-hum stuff. Get the movie DLC. It's only $6 extra. They're charging $50 for both versions, which, you know, to be fair, that's less than what Nintendo charges. That's $20 less than what they're charging for Donkey Kong Bonanza. And again, this is a very spectacular game. It was number 7 on my Games of the Year of 2024 video. And I do have a review of the original if you want to hear more details. But for now, I hope that one way or another you will give this version a try. Just do not buy it twice. It is absolutely not worth it. So with that, thank you very much for watching, my friends. Let me know down in the comment section if you're a big Sonic fan and if you've played the original, and if you think maybe you'll pick this one up first now that the game is closer to modern standards in its visuals and performance. Either way, I'd love to start a Sonic conversations. I really don't have enough Sonic fans in my YouTube channel, so I hope this is a trendsetter for that. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!